60.
All right. Better than yesterday, I don't know. Try. That's what you do, right? Now.
This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to. That's why I do it.
Presented by the National Rifle Association. From the CZ Studios.
They're never going to stop us here.
Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, Armed American Radio's Daily Defense. The day after Garbage Day at the Ranch. It is a Thursday. Begins right now at the Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center. I, of course, am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day in front of this powerful Patriot Mobile microphone here at the Ranch. All being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Greg in Dallas, Texas. How you doing, my brother from Alabama?
Not too bad.
You hanging in there? We need to get you on camera here soon, brother. We got David Codrea up on camera. Now, it's all a test live for everybody if you want to watch the stream. So we'll see how it works out today, but it's fun to see you. David Codrea is up on the screen. David, we're live on Facebook, Greg, facebook.com/Armed American Radio. I'll let you do your thing on every other post that we have and where to participate in the chat and all that good stuff. And we'll get started with David Codrea. The hour's going to fly by, guys, so buckle in. Greg, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Other places to watch the show are going to be YouTube. Just do a search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters. You can head over to X and watch us there at AAR Mark. You can also head over to the website, which is armedamericanradio.org or .com. Hit that menu icon, then select your watch live or listen live option. And lastly, to join our live chat, just download Telegram, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
See how I did that? You would have thought that was me. I've heard that so many times. David Codrea, War on Guns. How you doing, my brother from another mother?
Geez, we're on camera now. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. You know, modern technology, right? It's been there for a long time. We just haven't been taking advantage of it. So we're doing all this live for those that like to watch the program. So hopefully it sounds good. We'll get it figured out for you, ladies and gentlemen. Might need a new, what is it, Greg? A cable or something like that at some point?
Yeah, possibly a cable.
Possibly a cable, or maybe we just need to plug something in that might not be plugged in. Is that how that works? I don't know.
A number of things.
Well, there is one drawback to this, and that's I don't have a laptop, so I have to use my PC, and the wife won't let me have a cigar in the house. So.
Oh yeah, and well, it's not cold. It's not warm enough for you to go outside with this yet and bring an extension cord or something. But we'll work on that for you, David. I do have a backup photograph that we can put up there for you. If you see, there you go. We can throw there if you want to do that. But anyway, you never know. Hey, so it's a work in progress. We'll see how it works. Hopefully everybody's got audio. We'll check that during the break, and if not, well, we'll fix it for you on the fly, because the only way we can test all this fun stuff is while we're live because of the connections that we have. David, did you watch the State of the Union?
I did, the entire thing. It was a very interesting program. In many ways, it was inspiring. I don't think that it changed any Democrat minds, because Trump could cure cancer and they would find some reason to fault the guy for it. But I thought that he had a very, very powerful moment when he asked people to stand up if they thought that America should protect Americans as opposed to illegal aliens, and the Democrats all remained seated. I see that they're already making commercials dealing with that. My one concern, and I said it on my War on Guns blog, Mark, was not one word about the Second Amendment, and I think we got to work on that.
Get my mic back up. I can't disagree with that because I didn't hear anything about that either. And well, let me ask you this, because you said we got to work on that. What would you have liked to have seen him say if that came up? I was disappointed like you, because that was a centerpiece of his campaign, as we all know. And he has made, let's face facts. This is not a Biden administration, okay? What would you like to have seen him say about Second Amendment issues? What would you like to see him bring up?
I would like to have seen him say that his administration is finally turning attention to the Second Amendment and explain to the American people why it's their right. You know, too often we have the rhetoric that's aimed at just us gun owners, okay? And we understand why, and we understand where it's coming from. But a lot of the American people have been indoctrinated by the mainstream media. They don't really understand. They're susceptible to all the lies that we expose on this program. On, these lies get exposed, but unfortunately, a lot of the electorate is not exposed to these lies, and they hear something on CNN and they believe that it's the truth, which of course it's not. I would like to see politicians, Trump and all Republicans, use their bully pulpits to essentially explain why it is all of our rights, and explain why it's so important, and to use their leadership positions to educate their constituency as to why it is an important right and why it affects them and why they should be concerned about it, and get away from all the propaganda that we see on why it needs to be eliminated.
Did you expect that he would have said something? I mean, when you sat down, were you actually expecting to hear something like that come from him?
I was expecting to hear at least an acknowledgement of the Second Amendment Task Force and Harmeet Dillon's civil rights actions that are going on with this, and to say something just as a nod to the Second Amendment that could be expanded on later. Okay, I wouldn't expect him to take the entire State of the Union and do much more than a segue into it, but it would start the conversation.
Yeah, I it's hard for me to say I was disappointed in the sense of being disappointed. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me try to re-articulate that.
No, I get you.
Because I didn't expect it. I was, based on what had happened recently in Minnesota, I thought for sure something would come up based strictly on that, but I didn't know what. The fact that it didn't come up, I can completely understand why it didn't come up, because himself and two others in the administration, that being Harmeet Dillon and that being Kash Patel, had to walk back statements that they made. And, you know, there's an old adage in radio, David, never draw attention to a negative. Greg has yelled at me for that multiple times over the years. You've already been there. Don't go back there when you come back from a break. Just move on. It's over. Okay. And that's true. We shouldn't. And I didn't expect to hear him draw attention to that negative when he was trying to put out a positive message. And I don't know that there was anything positive there that he could have articulated was positive. Am I making sense? Are you getting what I'm saying?
I'm getting what you're saying. I'm going to have to say that it doesn't have to be presented as a negative. He doesn't have to come at it from that angle. I've got an article on Firearms News right now, one of the new articles that's out there, exactly about some of these misstatements that were made, particularly by Janine Pirro. And it doesn't have to be approached from that angle. It can be approached from, you know, we're taking a look at the Second Amendment and all the infringements on it. We've got a Second Amendment task force, and we are committed to making sure that the rights of all Americans in this regard are respected. And it doesn't have to go much beyond that.
Do we have a Second Amendment task force? I'm on that task force last I checked. Nobody's contacted me from the administration. I mean, I'm asking that facetiously, rhetorically, sarcastically, all rolled into one, but nobody's ever reached out to me. And now I can tell you that we do have a very powerful voice with an ear to the White House, okay, and that being Alan Gottlieb. We know that Alan has had conversations with the White House and staff. I know that for a fact. He's made that clear on the show. But there are 59 other people on that task force as a group, and we've never been asked to convene in any way, shape, or form. And that's disappointing to me.
Mark, I've written about this several times, and in fact, that there are no subject matter experts from the Second Amendment community on this task force to advise about lawsuits that they're on, because we'll see statements coming out defending the NFA. Okay.
Mhm.
We will see rules that are being implemented. We will see actions that are being taken. We will see laws that are being proposed. We will see statements that are being made by the administration. And my position throughout all of this is, if you had some subject matter experts that were advisors to the administration on this, you would see a lot of these disconnects and a lot of what looks like bipolar policy headed off at the pass before it ever ends up embarrassing the administration and alienating gun owners, which are a core constituency. And with the midterms coming up, you cannot douse fire in belly. That's just common sense.
Well, there's a lot of different expertise on that panel. Let me give you an example. From a media standpoint, Cam Edwards is on that panel. I'm on that panel. We happen to know a little bit about media. But nobody's approached us in that respect.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have regular inputs
right
with the task force itself, and we don't get updates. Okay, so Mr. Gottlieb has an inside ear to the White House and a contact that he can talk to, but we're not getting reports saying what the progress is, what he's advised them on, what rules has he talked about to them, and things that can be shared with us so that we can see some progress.
Yeah, that gives us something to talk about moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to David Codrea. If you want to watch us, you can watch us over on X. If you do watch us on X, you got to click on the live button there because it doesn't show up in the streams. We also found out that that's their fault. We know how to fix that coming up tomorrow if you'd like to watch us. But regardless, we'll be back. This is a radio show with David Codrea right after the break.
Is it a radio show still?
The following segment of Armed American Radio is proudly being brought to you by the National Rifle Association. Help us defend freedom by visiting nra.org/AAR and join today. Welcome back to the show. Yeah, welcome back to the show, everybody. Yeah, you can do that. It's real simple to do. You can visit nra.org/AAR and take advantage of that. I see those numbers, and you guys are killing it over there. Please help us out over at, and that's at nra.org/AAR. I got some cool media tidbits coming up if you're going to be at the annual meetings, the annual conferences this year coming up for the NRA in April in Houston. We would love to see you there. We will have a booth there, and we will be broadcasting this program live for you from the NRA annual meetings this year in beautiful Houston, Texas. Greg, I just said Houston was beautiful. Is Houston beautiful? Not sure. Some people have differing opinions on that. I happen to like Houston, Texas, but no big deal. Welcome back in, everybody. Please make sure you go out of your way and visit armedamericanradio.com and .org and visit all of our great sponsors there. Bud's Gun Shop's got something for you. I can promise you that. budsgunshop.com, budsgunshop.com. We're working on putting dates together to do a live broadcast over there coming up as well, either in the Kentucky facility or the Tennessee facility. We'll let you know when that gets ready to happen. David Codrea, welcome back in, brother. Jump on in with me.
Always good to be with you, Mark.
Always good to have you here, brother. I want to get back to this conversation on that because it's an important one. When you see the administration and I'm just going to say it this way, making missteps. Is that a fair way to say this?
I might be a little stronger, but that's me.
Okay, but that's okay, and I get it because you would be stronger, and that's why you're here. I'll be somewhat nice, and I have to be FCC friendly, as you know. But I'll say at the very least the missteps, like Trump's statement on Air Force One in that gaggle about you just can't do that, guys. You can't bring a gun like that. Okay, I know what Trump was doing there. Trump was just being Trump, speaking off the cuff, and he was just almost rhetorically saying, guys, you can't do that. You can't take a gun and involve yourself in law enforcement, is what Trump was actually saying. I'll give him that pass. But I will not give that mulligan, David, to Harmeet Dillon, and I won't give that mulligan to a Pam Bondi, and I certainly won't give that mulligan to a Kash Patel, who I know. I expect something better. The fact that they have to come back and walk those statements back after the fact because of pressure. Now, I happen to know they're listening to this program. I know they're watching people like Guns and Gadgets. I know they read your stuff, okay? That's a problem. Those are bigger than missteps. Trump's statement, misstep. He was just talking off the cuff because that's what Donald Trump does. But it's discouraging to see that when the members of the administration, who should know better than this, almost seemingly followed his lead and said, well, he said it, I can say it. So that makes me think in the back of my head, what are they thinking in the back of their minds? Certainly they have to know. Now, again, I'm going to say this. Would you rather have a Kamala Harris administration, or would you rather have Harmeet Dillon? Would you rather have Pam Bondi? Or would you rather have Kash Patel? I'd rather have who we have right now today. And I think you'll agree with that, even though we're never going to get 100% of everything. Your thoughts?
That may be taken away from us if fire gets doused out of enough bellies to where the Democrats take the midterms, and then Katie bar the door on what we're going to see happen. And this is why, again, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but they need to start listening, and they need to start realizing
We're getting the same thing we would with Kamala.
Is not because we want to go out there and we want to criticize the administration and we want to criticize the policies. Our intent is to help the administration navigate its way through this admittedly turbulent issue so that they don't blow it with gun owners, because we do understand that if a Democrat administration comes in, it's just going to be a totally different ballgame, particularly if they end up taking the presidency in 28 and are then able to reshape the Supreme Court. Because I guarantee you, if the Democrats, have the ability, and, Clarence Thomas isn't getting any younger. They're talking about Samuel Alito might be talking about retiring. Who knows what can happen to any of them? Nobody really expected that Justice Scalia was going to check out on us. And if you start to get a Democrat majority on that court, you're going to see Bruin reversed. You're going to see Heller reversed. You're going to see McDonald reversed. You're going to see any and all infringements coming from places like California and New York, held up as constitutional, which we know is just a lie. And then we're going to have to say, the game is up for us in terms of politics. And then it becomes a matter of you as an individual. Are you going to obey and surrender, or are you not going to disarm and then take the risks and the consequences that come along with that terrible decision?
And it is a terrible decision. I want Greg to bring his mic live, because while you were speaking, Greg jumped in. We're getting the same thing, he said, that we would with a Kamala Harris administration. I'm going to politely disagree with you on that one, Greg, because we're not. I understand where you're coming from, because I know where your heart is on this. But I can promise you that if we had a Kamala Harris administration, it would be far worse than what we have now. So jump in here. Tell me why you feel that way.
No accountability. Anybody and everybody that should be facing accountability right now is not facing it. And with the Democrats, it was quick, fast, and in a hurry. They started prosecuting Trump's lawyers after the 2020 election issues. And then lawyers, for crying out loud, they prosecuted, which is against some kind of a code, I believe. And people that blatantly committed Nuremberg violations amongst the entire populace of the globe are still walking around free.
Yeah, and David, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I think you're right about that. David, Susan Rice just came out and made some very telling
Bingo.
okay, about what the Democrats are going to do. And she essentially said, when we get back in power, every MAGA had better watch out. That was a direct threat, ladies and gentlemen. And some people could take that threat as a physical threat because I believe that's what it was meant. If you ever listen to Justin Moon on this program, guys, he'll tell you they want to put you in camps. And if you listen to goofballs like Carville and everybody else, David, they're going to pack that court. Now, we don't have to look any further than Virginia, David Codrea. We don't have to look any further than what's going on in Virginia. Let's go there right now, because that is exactly what we're seeing. And they have the gall to put Spanberger up there to give the response as a moderate when she's going after the rights of every single law-abiding Virginian who has done absolutely nothing wrong. Take it away.
Yeah, the Democrat Party, you know, what they want to call a moderate today, you know, a few years ago would have been called a communist. And Spanberger, the thing that disappoints me about her is I even see outlets like CNN calling her a moderate or a centrist.
Yeah.
Well, what, you guys even paying attention to what the heck's going on here? And yes, when they get in power, you can tell when somebody is cruel and like essentially a psychopath. When they get the upper hand, they turn really cruel and really vicious and can't wait to get revenge. You know, it's absolutely scary, but that's why they're gonna push it to the point where it's going to be surrender your rights, or
else
we're going to come after you, and yeah, or else. And we've gone through this. I went through this personally in California many years ago. I moved back to Ohio finally in 2007. But I got in. There was a members' council. I had a members' council meeting where the California DOJ presided, and they basically dictated the terms and conditions of our surrender to where we had to fill out these registration cards for a semi-automatic weapon.
Right.
Yeah,
And a couple of friends went there.
Yeah, hold on one second, because we're getting ready to take a break. When we come back, I want to go back to California, and I want to tie that back to Virginia and some other comments made as well, because the Democrats are, in fact, telegraphing, ladies and gentlemen, The following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show. Indeed, welcome back to the show. patriotmobile.com/AAR, patriotmobile.com/AAR. If you're watching, this is a Patriot Mobile phone. If you're watching, this is a Patriot Mobile hat. This is a Patriot Mobile hat that I have to fight my family for because they all want this hat. And I'm constantly having to seek its existence somebody else's room except mine. So I keep it in here now as often as possible because everybody wants to steal it. patriotmobile.com/AAR. They support your right to bear arms. Support them. The other three carriers who you might be using, one of those three carriers who I won't mention, that would be Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Oops, I mentioned them again. Do not support your right to bear arms. Patriot Mobile does. Make sure to visit them, patriotmobile.com/AAR, and all of our great partners. You can find them all at Patriot Mobile. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. And don't forget the Pot of Gold auctions. Make sure to check that out over there. Cheryl Todd was with us yesterday. Lots more to talk about with them coming up over the course of the next days, weeks, and months ahead. They've got your back, and they're working closely with Walk the Talk America and the suicide prevention. We're going to be doing auctions to benefit that organization through Pot of Gold auctions. So we're thrilled to be participating in that also. David Codrea, welcome back to the program, brother. It's great to be able to see you while we talk on the radio today. That generally doesn't happen. How you doing, brother?
Well, Mark, thank you.
Yeah, you look good too, by the way. Sport coat, not necessary in this environment. I can promise you. I get a t-shirt. You know, I live a rock and roll lifestyle now, David. What can I tell you? You know, it's just the way it is. T-shirt, stuff, whatever. David, let's go back and tie Virginia now to Minnesota as well, because it's all on the same line. We see what's happening in Virginia. We know what they want to do. They are telegraph. They're telling us by what they're doing.
Sure.
Spanberger. Now, Minnesota's going as far as seeking Fourth Amendment violations, as you likely know, where with a bill that says, hey, we're going to send cops are going to be able to go into your home to make sure that you are complying with our new unconstitutional. It says you have to have your guns locked up the way we say you have to have them locked up, and they want to be able to go to your door and tell you we're coming in. Ladies and gentlemen, if you say no, that means they're coming in anyway. And if you say no and they want to come in, they're going to come in. This is door kicking stuff, David.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. It's Soviet, it's Mao China type stuff, and it's the kind of thing that we never thought would happen in America, and it's happening now, and it's going to continue to happen. The more Democrats gain power, this is what they do. This is what they're about. They're about control. And we understand that, what they talk about when they say common sense gun safety laws. What they're ultimately talking about is complete confiscation, and anyone who says that is paranoid has not been paying attention, because you go back to the very founders of the gun control movement, Thomas Dodd, the author of the '68 Gun Control Act, and he's on record saying that if it were up to him, all guns would be banned. You have Nelson Pete Shields, the founder of handgun control. It was the National Council to ban handguns. And he talked, quite candidly back in the 80s about how the plan was to do things incrementally and get to the point where they finally ban handguns. And we know that this is what their agenda is. And anyone who says differently is either a liar, a dolt, or not paying attention, or all three. And we see it now. We just had this idiot mayor of Grand Rapids, Michigan, this David Codrea, is that his name?
Yeah.
And he's saying, if you own a gun, you ought to be ashamed. And I'm thinking, you know what? There's an object lesson here, though, for all of these FUDs. And you know what I mean when I say FUDs. I'm not talking about all hunters and sport shooters. I'm talking about hunters and sport shooters that don't give a damn about their rights and that will throw the rest of us under the bus as long as they have their shotguns and their duck hunts and things like that. I'm talking about the ones that voted for Kamala Harris and the ones who voted for Joe Biden and the ones that are part of Gifford's sportsmen for whatever the heck they think they are. And you know what, guys? Just because Paul FEMA says he's going to eat you last doesn't mean he doesn't intend to eat you, and he will. And all you need to do is look at this guy from Grand Rapids. If you own a gun, you ought to be ashamed. Democrat gun owners are not accepted from this, are they?
No, they're not. And we left out famously 1992 statement from Dianne Feinstein, Mr. and Mrs. America. If I could have done it, turn them all in, I would have done it, but the votes weren't there. She was actively seeking you turning in your guns. That's what she wanted to do, but the votes weren't there. Guess what happens next go around? See Susan Rice. Go back and listen to what she said. They're going to come after you on every single front, ladies and gentlemen. And David, there is a very real possibility that one side of the hill flips in the midterms. And what I want to see happen is what Trump is doing now codified, not just in executive order, executive action. I want to see it codified. And if the Republicans are smart, they're going to do that in advance. Now, June is going to be on us quickly. Okay. November is going to be here quickly. We'll all be celebrating Thanksgiving and Christmas in the blink of an eye. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to head into March already. All right. That's how fast it's coming. And we know what they have in store for us. So shame on us if we don't do something, David. What should we be doing right now? What should the Republicans be doing right now to help stave this off, knowing what could happen?
Well, first of all, not saying stupid stuff that alienates everybody, but we need to really have a get out the vote effort that goes after the low propensity voters. These are the guys, gun owners that only go out during presidential elections. And we saw this happen in Virginia. Virginia doesn't surprise me when I see everything that's happening. And when I realize how many gun owners in Virginia just sat on their hands and we tried, if you follow my stuff on AmmoLand, you know that we tried to put together, getting the groups involved to go after the low propensity voters, and essentially we were ignored, and the money wasn't there to bring in staffers and to really go after the low propensity voters. and I know this for a fact because, you know, I've worked elections too. Okay. You know, we don't just sit around and write and talk about activism. We live it. And I've gone down and been a poll watcher for a candidate and then gone back and seen who voted and then tried to, you know, call people and get them to come down and turn out the vote. And it just amazes me when the vote goes against us and you see places like Virginia doing what they're doing and you see all the complaints that come after the fact and just as simple a thing as voting. And instead what you get is, well, you know, there's no voting our way out of it. Well, if you want to make that a self-fulfilling prophecy, then I guess that's exactly what you're going to do. And we're going to be then left with the final choice. I will not disarm, and I won't. But boy, oh boy, I'd sure rather, you know, be able to resolve things, you know, just nicely and constitutionally, as opposed to having to worry about people are going to come and bust down my door. Which, by the way, as long as you brought that example up, I got to get in another dig at our friend Sylvester Stallone, who is continually being honored by our Second Amendment is beautiful president. And Stallone is the one who said, until America goes door to door, you're going to continue to see this kind of stuff happening. And then he makes, you know, all kinds of millions of dollars as Rambo. And guys, never once said I was wrong and apologized and came out and defended the Second Amendment. I think that's wrong.
It is wrong. It's flat out wrong. And you bring up so many different points here. I wish we had another couple hours. I could take off a bunch of different directions with what you just went through. But I'm going to give you an example. I'll take it to the break and I'll get your comments when we come back. We've got 30 seconds. When at rally day in Virginia, about 1,000 people turned out, which I'm going to say in hindsight was a good thing. And here's why. If I had seen another 50 or 60,000 people come out, my question would have been, where the hell were they? Because that many did not vote, which would have been a disappointment. At least I know now, and there's a theory as to why Virginia is where it is right now today. And I know people personally that live in Virginia, family, friends, many of them over many years. And when we come back from the break, I'll explain what I mean by that, and then we'll turn it over to David Codrea. And we'll talk about some of his writings and where you can find all his fun stuff. But it's a fairly easy explanation, and it seems to make sense, my theory. I'll explain when we come back from the break. You're on the Armed American Radio Network. I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom with David Codrea right after the break. This segment is brought to you by Attorneys on Retainer. Get the only self-defense program for gun owners backed by a real law firm, the Attorneys for Freedom. Visit them online at attorneysonretainer.us. Welcome back. Yeah, guys, I had a conversation with some of the staff at AOR today, Attorneys on Retainer. Of course, attorneysonretainer.us/AAR. Put this card in your wallet. Don't be stupid. Have this. God forbid you need to use your firearm. You're going to need a lawyer, and you're going to need a lawyer instantaneously. And this is your ticket right here. It's $37 a month. Smartest thing you'll ever do, period. Do it. They will be with me, and I will be with them again at the NRA as well. So if you're going to be there, you're going to get a dose of everything. So make sure to visit attorneysonretainer.us, attorneysonretainer.us. Don't forget ccrkba.org/AAR. Make a donation over there, and you could win that Ruger precision rifle. The package is valued at about $2,200 to $2,500. Real easy to do. ccrkba.org/AAR. Take advantage of that, please. And all of our great partners, you can find every single one of them at armedamericanradio.com or .org. One more segment left with the great David Codrea here in the CZ studios in front of this Patriot Mobile mic. It's all brought to you by the NRA. David, welcome back in, my brother. So let me make the point that I was going to make before the break, before we got cut off. And I believe I'm right here. And I can't wait to get your thoughts. Hundreds of thousands of Virginians have just checked out, David. They've just checked out. They're done. The Democrats won. They know it. They're paying no attention. I've talked to countless people who have said to me, that's it. I'm finished. I'm done. I'm not living under their rules. I'm not paying any attention to them. I'm turning the crap off. The shiitake mushrooms, I'm not paying any attention to it anymore. I'm going to live my life, do what I do, and I simply don't care anymore. Now, I get it. That's an easy way to check out, but that's also very dangerous as we go forward. It's also kind of like why there's probably only 1,000 people at the rally instead of 50,000 people at the rally, David. A lot of these people have just said, why bother? That's dangerous, is it not?
It's absolutely dangerous because if they end up getting in trouble, they're going to find themselves in a situation where their entire lives are destroyed. And don't plan on your fellow gun owners coming to your rescue. We're seeing that with this Lawrence DeStefano, of Indie Guns. And you know, he's now up at Rikers Island in New York. And Letitia James is doing her best to destroy this man's life because he will not give up the names of the customers who bought his gun parts. Okay. And they're trying to do a fundraiser. I just have an article released today, as a matter of fact, on AmmoLand that's talking about this, that links to his GoFundMe page. And they have to just raise a phenomenal amount of money. And of course, it's just trickling in. I'm already getting people in comments giving excuses as to why they won't, pony up $10 for goodness sakes. And here they are, paying God knows what to be on the internet. And so don't count on anybody coming to rescue you. If you get caught, you're going to be essentially on your own, and your life is going to be destroyed. So I mean, it just seems it's a lot easier just to organize. Do what the Democrats do so well. They organize. That's what Obama was all about, was organizing. And well, we don't have time because we work, and we don't have time to get involved. You know what? I worked. Mark, you work. We've always had time to get involved in the extracurricular stuff as well, because you make the time. And not just working, but we were raising children while this was happening. Yeah. And I guess you can always come up with an excuse why you won't do anything. I just did a post today on my War and Guns blog. And I won't name the organization right now. It's a state organization. And I looked at their X feed, and they only have something like 4,000 followers. They got fewer followers than I do, and I'm a nobody, okay? And I thought, I looked up the state, and they have one of the highest rates of household gun ownership in the union, and yet, their online presence isn't supported. And I get people, I won't join social media. You don't have to use it for social media. Call it advocacy media, because through that, you're getting programs like what you're watching right now. Okay, do you think that it's in the interest of MSNBC or MS Now or whatever they call themselves these days, or CNN to, live radio? My phone's ringing. I'm going to hang up. Spam risk.
Is it a good time to call AWR? He does that all the time when we're on the air. No, go ahead, because I do have a response to that.
Yeah, let's hear it, because this apathy is it's the bigger enemy than the antis.
Well, you mentioned that the state, we don't have to go, that doesn't matter, has one of the highest gun ownership rates in the country. Therein lies part of the problem. I have my guns. I'm good.
Yeah.
I have my guns. I don't need to do that. I have everything I need. People think that way. Do I really need, what's the old adage? How many more guns do you really need? Just one more, My wife, same question. Now it's, do you really need all those guitars? How many do you need? Well, every one of them does something different, and that's true. But there are people who are under political pressure that have 72 guns they've been collecting their entire lives. And you know what? They get to a point, they say, I have everything I need. We have a Second Amendment. Nobody's going to come and take them, really. Yeah, that's just a bunch of talk. Nobody's going to come and get them. When in fact, they're telling you they want to come and get them. You need only look at what's happening in Virginia. Look at the bills that moved across New Mexico that failed the other day in committee, thank God. But that doesn't mean that it's not coming back. The Democrats are just going to piece it up and break it up like a puzzle and bring it back piecemeal is what they're going to do. Those were outright bans, ladies and gentlemen, with no grandfathering. So guys, wake up. Maybe you do have all the guns you need. Maybe you don't need another gun. Maybe you're at a point where you'd like one, but it's a little bit too expensive out there. I have my guns. Ladies and gentlemen, as David just made very clear, nobody's going to come to your rescue. Okay? It's you. And yeah, you're right. And when it comes to activism, you've got to make the time to do it. David, it's like when you had kids, when you were a lot younger and your kids were infants. You know, people used to say, my gosh, how am I going to afford all this formula and all these diapers and stuff? And guess what? You just give up certain other areas of your life and it works. You've got to make the time to do this. If you don't do this, well, you're going to find yourself in a situation like Virginia. I don't know of any other way to put it. It just is what it is.
Yeah, do it while it's still easy, folks, because once it gets hard, it's just going to be. We can't imagine what it would be like to have this country devolve into the way that it seems to be happening right now, with so many Democrat supporters accepting naked communism as the norm for the party. This is something that those of us who are a little older, I was born in the 50s, and we'd have never thought that anything like this would happen. And the Democrat Party, you take a look at, the liberal icons like John F. Kennedy and Hubert H. Humphrey, and I've got statements from both of those showing that they had a fundamental understanding of what the Second Amendment was for, and it wasn't for deer hunting, and they understood that it was a last resort check against tyranny. And these were Democrats. These were mainstream, president and vice president, for goodness sakes, and they had this understanding. And yet you look at the way things have devolved today, and it's a totally different universe. It's bizarre.
It absolutely is. It's an upside down world. And I'll just use that the U.S. born athlete who chose to ski for China. There was a time in this country she would have never been welcomed back to this country.
Eileen Gu.
Gu, right. Thank you, Greg, for the name. She would have never been welcomed back. And we're at a point now where she's being cheered on. Oh, David, it's waronguns.com, ladies and gentlemen. Waronguns.com is the clearinghouse for everything David Codrea. David, you're magic. You're wonderful. I love you. And it's so good to be able to see you on the radio, which is very cool. We'll do this again very, very soon. Guys, we're going to get up and do it again tomorrow because they don't want us to. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel.
You just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by the National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association on the Armed American Radio Network.
Oh, guys, fun stuff. I know there's a little bit of delay there on the audio and the video. We're working on that. We know what we need to do. It's just a matter of waiting for a piece. We'll get it. But we appreciate it. We appreciate you hanging in with us. A lot of fun. Enjoying it for you. Glad we can provide you this cool stuff. A long time coming. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the program today, guys. Please, please, please go out of your way and visit all of our great sponsors. Find them all. BudsGunShop.com. All of them. Crossbreed holsters, they're all there for you. Every single one of them are there for you at armedamericanradio.com. They're there for a reason. They're all dynamite. We'll talk more about some of them tomorrow. We have a couple new ones coming up in the near future as well, and I think you'll be excited when that happens. So in the meantime, enjoy your day today. Stay safe. Tomorrow's a Friday, Greg's favorite day of the week. I have to tell you mine too, because it's been a very long week getting back from 5 or 6 days out in the beautiful state of Arizona. So enjoy your day. Stay safe, guys. We'll see each and every one of you on the radio tomorrow. Literally see you on the radio tomorrow. Stay safe, guys. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.